dreams about my angels and confronting my fears. At the age of 12, I grew an innate fear of seeing angels. I never experienced this fear before until one evening when I walked into the kitchen with all of the lights off. I heard a voice in my mind tell me that God would send an angel to visit me in the dark and it would scare me. Now, I know this doesn't make much sense, right? However, being that I have been receiving prophetic dreams since I was 9 years and experienced paranormal activities, this message seemed very real to me, and it also frightened me. My stepfather worked very hard to pray the fear away, yet nothing worked. This fear stayed with me for many years. I would become petrified to fall asleep, in fear that a blinding light would enter my room, and that some large being with wings would be standing over me in my bed. I remember reading many books in the Bible about this type of thing happening to people, so perhaps I let my imagination run wild. Or was it something else? I began to notice that my cat Mowgli began to chase something up and down our stairs. He would growl at whatever it was. I also noticed that there were beautiful sparkles that he would chase all around our house. I tried explaining this to my parents, but it seemed so odd to them. My dad understood what it was, and he said they were orbs. I didn't know exactly what that was, and if I did, I'm sure it would have intensified my fears. I felt that Mowgli was protecting me from whatever was causing me stress at night. Mowgli slept right outside of my room, and I felt a lot better when he was near. Sometimes he would sleep on my bed. One night, I had a very interesting dream in 1995 that forced me to confront my fears of seeing angels. I had a dream that I woke up to Mowgli playing with a magical-looking cube block that floated over my bed. He kept batting at it with his paw. Now, keep in mind that this dream was more like an outer-body experience, and it was as if I stepped into a different dimension altogether. When I saw Mowgli doing this, naturally, it scared me at first. The cubed box floated from my bed to now outside of my room and went down the hallway. Mowgli continued to follow it and was intrigued by it. This really scared me because of my fear of the angels coming to visit me. Now, when this happened, I saw a beam of light down the hallway, and I knew instantly that there were angels. I heard a voice call my name, Monique. It was a strong baritone voice. It went on to say, "Monique, I command you to come now." I said to myself, "I'm not going anywhere. I am scared to death." I then tried to hide under my covers. The next thing I know, the voice said, "Jehovah commands you to come now." When the voice said this, I jumped out of my bed and immediately obeyed this voice, which was the voice of God or some higher power. Please keep in mind that at the time I was a Christian. This is what I could relate to at the time. I was so afraid of seeing angels. However, when I turned the corner of the hallway, I saw a door. When I opened the door, I saw 3 people standing there. One was an older black man, another a white woman, and the other person, I can't remember what they looked like. They all looked like normal people, except that when I looked down at their feet, they didn't have any. It was as if they were floating and didn't need feet. That is how I knew they were angels. One by one, they each greeted me and hugged me. They asked me how I was doing. I told them I was doing okay. They said that they had a mission for me to complete, and they needed to teach me some lessons. Before I knew it, they beamed me up into the clouds. The clouds created this other dimension where it became a classroom. Inside the classroom were other light workers, each being taught certain assignments. I also remember seeing a bunch of white candles that were lit up. The beings told me that one of my missions was to help one of my friends who was lost. I knew who this friend was. They said I needed to try to help her. They also said that I had another more dangerous mission, and that I needed to be careful. The angels said they would be sending me back to Earth. They told me if I needed help, to call on them, and they would come and rescue me. When I returned back down to Earth, I was inside of a sewer. It was dark, damp and cold with very little light. The only light I could see were numerous green candles. They gave me a pathway to see in front of where I was walking. I was very afraid. Suddenly, I saw a very tall man that was at least 30 feet tall. He wasn't human. His only mission was to rape me in the dream. As I started walking down the dark sewer, he was very far away from me. However, he realized I was walking in his direction. When I recognized I was going towards him, I took off running the opposite direction down the dark corridor. The entity then began chasing me. The chase went on, which felt like for eternity. When I knew that he was getting close to me to devour me, I called on my angels for help. The next thing I knew, I was back at headquarters. They told me I passed the test, but that I would have many more lessons to overcome. They reminded me to call on them for help anytime I needed it. I told them I would. Before I left headquarters in the clouds, I saw a bunch red and white candles. There were hundreds of them, in addition to the light-bearer people that were there. Dream of entity chasing me. 1997. I had this dream that this giant creature that looked human, but was at least 30 feet tall, as trying to chase me to rape. It was a very scary dream. Then I woke up. Blanket cloud. Dreamed in 1995. During the time of my youth, my sleep insomnia was at an all-time high, because I could sense that something was in our townhome. My cat McGray also continued chasing. Something and growling that we could not see, except for the orbs. Besides all of the orbs, I was just downright scared. However, my dreams from the other side also began to increase and helped me to become less afraid of the unseen. I had a dream that I woke up and saw a small cloud hovering over my bed. When I went to touch the cloud opened up and became this very beautiful cloud blanket with lots of sparkles. The blanket wrapped me up and then picked me up and spun me around. Then a voice said, "No matter how hard something is, trust in God and He will see you through." After having this dream, my faith began to grow in God, that I was protected from whatever these things were inside of our home. Dream the summer of 1997. I had a dream that I was lost in the dark down this street called 6th Avenue. This street actually exists near my house. I didn't know where I was going, and it seemed as though there was ongoing traffic. Then the dark sky opened up, and a meteor or comet flashed across the sky. I then heard a voice say, "No matter how hard something is, trust in God and He will see you through." It was the exact same message as the cloud dream I had a couple of years earlier. I didn't understand why I had these dreams, because my life seemed to be going so well. However, all this would change around the year 2021, when I would go on a serious journey in my life, nearly escaping death multiple times. I will share these stories in other accounts in the future. The summer of 1997 was a tough year for me. I lost my virginity and got into so much trouble over this because of my defiance towards my parents. My stepdad was very religious and also understood the paranormal. In his ignorance, he prayed for demons to come into my room. He prayed, "Oh Heavenly Father, we pray that you punish Monique for her sins. We pray for demons to come into her room at night. Let her feel their ice-cold touch and surround her bed. Let them live in her room, since she is being deviant towards you. Amen? I couldn't believe this, because I was already afraid to sleep at night for years, and now demons were being summoned to come into my room. This is when my sleep paralysis began, and also the time that my dreams heightened, and I gained a higher understanding of spiritual warfare and entities. I was put on punishment for the entire summer and forced to end my relationship with my boyfriend. I decided to be obedient and listen to my parents, because I was told by my angels that if I listened, I would be able to be in a relationship with him again after I got off punishment. During this time, I really struggled to take naps during the day. I started dealing with sleep paralysis no matter what time of day I went to sleep. This is when I had a series of different types of dreams. One dream in particular that I will share strengthened my courage and helped me to understand how protected I was. My dad also told me that I could pray for additional angels. I don't think he realized the portal he opened up in my room with the demons and how this really bothered me. I had a dream the summer of 1997 that I was walking across this busy street. I really didn't know where I was going. There were cars getting ready to hit me. Suddenly, this frightening creature appears in my dream. He looked like some type of robot or an army terminator. One of his legs was made of a tractor wheel, and he had some type of sophisticated-looking, extraterrestrial-looking eye lens for an eye in which he could see for miles away. The lens could also detect infrared activity. His body was very robotic yet human. He began walking in front of me. I started praying to get away from this creature. I remember as he was walking in front of me, there were two paths that opened up. One path was very dangerous, and it was going towards the left side of the road. The other path was peaceful and had lots of flowers and bushes. I thought the creature was going to take me on the dangerous path, but instead he led to the peaceful path. I was really surprised because I thought he was dangerous. Then suddenly, a group of beings appeared in my dream. They were very tall, like 14 feet. They each had different colors to them. One was blue, the other red, one was pink, green, and so forth. I knew immediately that they were my angels. They asked me how I was doing, and I told them that I was so happy to have met them for the first time. I began counting each of them as they gathered in a circle around me. After I got to the seventh angel, another guide pointed to the scary-looking creature and yelled out, 8! I said, "Wow, that is my angel too." They said, "Yes, he protects you." After this, I felt very confident that I had spiritual protection all around me, and this helped lessen the fears that I had. When I woke up, I was so encouraged to continue learning more about my angels and to live my life better while still on punishment. During this time of my life, it was revealed that I would have an issue with wanting to be in a committed relationship. I began having dreams about my shadow side not wanting to be faithful in a relationship. It was like I was much older, and I didn't care about my relationships. I began to work on this part of my relationship with myself for many years so that I would not manifest this part of my life. Ironically, I would find myself in unhealthy relationships and would end up leaving my partners. I am not sure if I was overcompensating from the knowledge of my dreams by being too giving. However, I learned about this part of myself and vowed to be a committed partner, to love unconditionally, even if the relationship didn't work out. The buzzing sounds during sleep paralysis experienced the summer of 1997. Whenever I would try to take naps, I would find myself unable to move, having a difficult time breathing, and so on. My spirit would leave my body, and I would watch myself struggling to move or to wake up. The truth was, I was in another dimension, and the reality was that my body wasn't moving at all. I would find myself praying like crazy to be woken up out of this state of being, but it seemed impossible. I remember one time seeing this sort of dark mass around my body. When I prayed, I began hearing low vibrational sounds and very high-pitched sounds. It then began to sound like the high-pitched sounds were beating up the lower-pitched sounds. At one point, I heard a man screaming in the spiritual world. I began hearing these high and low-pitched sounds for days and days, over the course of several weeks, and as my faith in God grew stronger, I noticed that the high-pitched sounds became the dominant sound, and that the lower vibration sounds were getting weaker and weaker. Another time that summer, I had a dream that I looked behind my door, and an entity crouched down and looked up with fear in his eyes. It looked like something was coming for him. I realized what I was looking at was the thing that was tormenting me during sleep paralysis. It was finally getting crushed because I grew closer and closer to my angels. I now call them spirit guides, as I am not a religious person whatsoever, only spiritual. When I went on campus at Oakwood University in the fall of 1998, this is when I began seeing a lot of spiritual activity on the campus. The college was a Seventh-day Adventist college that was built on an old slave plantation. I didn't know I was looking at so many orbs and spirits. This is what I saw on a daily basis. I would see flashes of light, mist, streaks of light across the campus, and so many other things. This particular experience was the most important experience that I will never forget. This experience I'm going to share will give you insight into my life in the future and how I became a whistleblower. About a week after I moved into my dorm, I heard a group of people say, "We love truth." Mind you, it was just me inside of the dorm room. I knew these were angels that were speaking. I also began to hear them singing all of the time with my music. I would also hear these different vibrational tones. Another time, I was cleaning out the bathtub as I was fortunate to have my own bathroom that we shared with 2 other women. And a voice said to me, "A messenger is on its way." Now, when this voice came into my thoughts, it brought back my old fear of seeing angels. I was so frightened all over again. Although I had a roommate, I didn't know how this angel was going to come into my room. A couple of months later, I was listening to some uplifting music while falling asleep. My roommate was asleep. Suddenly, I began to hear voices singing with my music. But this time they were very, very loud. I felt the voices were right next to me, and this scared me. Then I saw a white light that looked like a round light. It floated onto the wall and began to move across it slowly. It was the size of a baseball, but maybe a little bigger. It was on the same side of my roommate's bed. When this happened, I knew it was some type of angel, and so I got so scared that I flipped on my lamp. When I did this, the light went away. At the time, I thought everything was an angel, not realizing the vast spiritual world that was around me. I never had that type of experience again. I do recall another experience after I went for a jog and came back in my dorm room. I remember drinking some water. The room became very hazy. I then suddenly saw a woman apparition praying. Then it faded away. Then I saw the same apparition again, drinking water from the same looking water bottle that I had. Then she faded away. This let me know that it was good for me to exercise, because I helped give my angel strength to fight lower vibrational forces. The woman who wanted to fly dreamed in 2010 My mom had a very creepy neighbor that was harboring some dark secrets. He had large, very oversized objects that filled the inside of his garage, that led all the way into his backsliding door to get into his house. It was as if he were hiding something, and he wanted to distract people by placing large objects everywhere so that you couldn't see inside his home. For example, he had like 3 large refrigerators, large cabinets, and other odd things. That didn't creep us out so much. It was when the man asked if my mum would come over to his house for dinner. This is when things took a weird turn. She felt very uncomfortable even speaking to him since that was her neighbor. Now he was asking her to come over. My mother didn't trust the man, and neither did I. My stepdad passed away, and my mum was open to dating new people, but not that man. He continued asking her if she would come over, but my mum never changed her answer. My mother used to tell me she would hear really strange noises in the man's house, like he was cutting something up. She even mentioned that he had bad smells coming out of his house, but then they would go away. Now, my mind started racing and caused me to start thinking of all sorts of things at this point, like, what if he is hurting someone? Or what if he is a serial killer? I began asking these questions, especially that my mum could be in real danger. The other issue was that I didn't have any proof. My mum and this creepy man shared a wall since it was a townhome. When I would go over my mum's house, I would often hear something moving around in her linen closet. The closet wasn't very big. It sounded like loud thumps and movement. I knew something was odd about this. I also began to wonder what on earth the neighbor was up to. However, one night I had a dream. This is a dream I will never forget. There was a white woman in her 40s with blonde hair. In the dream she had wings, but they were broken, and her body looked like it was compressed down into something. Her wings were pushed into an invisible space, almost as if she was stuffed into something. She told me, "It hurts. It hurts so bad. Can you help me?" In the dream, I went over to her wings and they were bleeding. I placed my hands over her wings and began praying and meditating for her to be released out of this pain. I did this for a while, and then I woke up. I told my mum this dream and felt that this man was indeed some type of serial killer or something. I felt that we needed to do something fast before he did something to her. With all of the large objects hiding out everywhere in his garage, it would be hard to ever find my mum if he were to do something. At this point, my mum gathered the courage to tell the man that she was sensing something was going on in the townhome community and that the police were going to be stopping by. In fact, the police did indeed come over to my mum's house and she told them what she suspected. The police said they didn't have any evidence but thanked her for notifying them. The very next day, I went over to my mum's house and I kid you not, this creepy neighbor was pulling out of his garage. Guess what he had on top of his car? It looked like a body or something wrapped in blankets and a tarp. He even had rope around it and it was tied down. I couldn't believe it. This definitely looked suspicious. My mum called the police again, but they told her they didn't have enough evidence. Well, guess what ended up happening? The man moved out in less than 3 days. Suddenly, he just up and vanished after he saw the police go over to my mum's house. This told me right then and there that he was indeed a murderer. And the fact that I had the dream about the woman, the noises in the closet, the bad smells from his house, the body bag on top of his car, and that he moved out so quickly raises my eyebrows. I don't know what ever happened to this man, but all I could do is pray for anyone that encountered him. I prayed that he would be stopped from any harm he was doing. It is so hard to get people arrested without evidence, and sadly, that is often why crime continues until it is too late for someone else. On the run onto a plane. Dream winter of 2010, and the manifestation happened the next day. I had a dream that there were 12 women that were deceased on an airplane. They were like zombies with bloodied arms, cuts and bruises. They were from New York. They came to me trying to tell me that they had been murdered by someone. Then I woke up. Well, my mother is a flight attendant. She called and told me that there was a very strange man on her plane while they were boarding. He wore black sunglasses and he looked very nervous. They were on their way to New York. I told my mum about the dream I had and that she needed to alert authorities that he may be suspected of harming women. My mum told me that his demeanor was making the other flight attendants uncomfortable. She knows how I have prophetic dreams and decided to contact authorities in New York to be aware of the man getting off the plane. I never knew what became of him, but at least the police got involved. It may have prompted an investigation. I was happy that the victims revealed to me what happened to them and that I could help them in some way.